to the Man Cave Classroom. I'm John Heeg along with my buddy Kevin Kogan, and we're going to look at some more documents from the New York State Archives Partnership Trust. Just before we went rolling, I think when it comes to looking back and preserving things in history, it seems like they had the right idea.
Right idea.
Because even now, right now as we're filming this, it's 2020, where we're going through a pandemic, and I don't know about you, but I've seen emails or calls from people to go, hey, if you got a picture or something that has historic value, hey, send it to us.
Yeah.
Because we know that, with cameras, and we know that with everything is going on, that, 2020, this coronavirus pandemic, this is going to be something that people look back at and go, wow. And what's the best way to learn about the past? It's by looking at
primary
documents.
sources.
Yeah.
These videos, someday when the aliens come down from
Right.
outer space and they're watching these videos, they're like, wow, those humans were crazy.
So, we're not going to leave this up here for you, but I just wanted you to see what this document looked like. So, historians, during this particular time period, they had the right idea in terms of trying to, hey, we're in the now, or this is fairly current. Let's try and document this. You'll probably notice, as we've noticed, that probably the wording of questions wasn't the best. Even the way they're documenting certain things, you could pick up on some little mistakes. However, they were trying.
Yeah.
This wasn't. When we're looking at, and of course, this is something that's documenting somebody's military experience from there. So we're going to actually break this document down here, and here, slide by slide. So this way you can kind of see it. And I thought this was pretty interesting. So I'll do the usual thing. I'll read it. I think we should probably get into the author of this as well, but you'll pick up on that because you're good with that. All right, 2. All World War ex-servicemen on the town of Champions. On the Towers of Champions. I'm sorry, it's a little blurred. Jefferson County, New York. The state historian is compiling a history of the state of New York in the World War. The records of the town of Champions should be complete. Will you help to make this true by answering all the questions below, returning the questionnaire to me promptly? Unless you do this, no record of your service will appear in the state history. In years to come, this record will be of great value to you and your families. Please cooperate. Mrs. George D. Hewitt, local historian, Carthage, New York. So
I wish there were a date on this letter.
Me too.
Only because she is referring to it as the World War, where while the war was being fought, it was originally referred to as the Great War.
Yeah.
And, there were people who were calling it the World War,
right.
And it's certainly not World War I until the Second Great War breaks out. But I would love to know when this was being written, how far after the war's completion. That's like one question I would have about it.
Of course, if we're in a classroom, we're asking our students who's the audience, and hopefully by now, ex-servicemen of the town of Champion, right? Of the Towers Champion, or of the town Champion. I'm sorry, it looked like it's a W.
It says toes.
Toes, okay.
But I probably just a typo.
Okay, so at any rate, just based on my experience, this isn't a military form, because a military form would definitely have like a standard number. If it's Navy, it's like Nav Med, Bu Med, or standard form 180 or whatnot. I think, hey, good on her. She's in the moment. She's thinking, hey, people are going to be looking at this. Let's try and get this documented while it's fresh. I wish there was a date on there as well. Again, something else that's giving you an indication that, they were kind of making this up as they went along. But let's look at the first one, right? We have a lot of the bio standard information here. You caught something that I missed.
Yeah.
So your name and address in full. This is Floyd Leander Baxter. Date and place of your birth, September 18th, 1888, Carthage, New York. Your father's name, George Baxter. Your mother's maiden name in full, Nellie Baxter. Pause. Were you in the Army or Navy? Army, entering service September 27th, 1917. Volunteer or selective service, selective. To what military or camp sent? Camp Dix. Were you with the AEF, which is the American Expeditionary Force? Yes. To what unit did you belong? 310th Infantry Company. E is an Echo. Date of trip overseas, May 20th, 1918.
All right, so what kind of jumped out at me was the father's name, George Baxter, and then the mother's maiden name in full was Nellie Baxter. So I don't know if maybe they didn't know the maiden name, or if they were already related before they were married. And I'm sure we can hear the kids laughing on the other end of the camera right now. However, it was not that uncommon.
Right.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his wife Eleanor were cousins.
Yes.
So it was not very uncommon back then that type of marriage could and would take place.
However,
Also,
there's like the big gap in between. You don't wonder if that's on purpose
right,
or
or
you know.
they didn't know it was left out.
Sure.
We don't know. Maybe the mother had passed, and I don't know. So he's entering the army in 1917. He's born in 1888. You know, quick math, he's 29 when he joins the military, which is older at the time.
Much older.
Did he volunteer or was it selective service? Selective service is the draft.
Right.
You know, all American citizens, men, when they turn 18, must register with the selective service system. So he was drafted into the military. Relatively old to be drafted. I don't even know if you can be drafted at this age anymore.
That's a whole other thing too. It's like you're 29, and you weren't volunteering. You were being voluntold. At this point in your life, how happy are you? Because if you're 29 during that particular time period, maybe a wife, maybe kids, hopefully establishing a career, everything's going well.
So he's entering the army in September of 17. And he's not going over to Europe until May of 19. May of 18. 18. And the war ends November.
Yeah.
November. So the war's, he's only going to be, 4 months later, 5 months later, the war is going to be over.
And we'll see what winds up happening to him with his fate. Camp Dix, if it holds true to what Camp Dix is today or where it's located, Camp Dix or Fort Dix is New Jersey. Slept out there quite a few times, not a pleasant experience. So they do give you a lot of information here. Mm-hmm. Like if I wanted to delve deeper, I have the unit. Date of birth, very important.
If you're like a genealogist, looking to do like a family tree on this guy.
I'm glad you're bringing up genealogists because with those genealogy type of web resources that are out there, the one thing that is common with guys from this time period is that you'd probably find his selective service draft card, like when he had to fill that out. And then we'd see a time where, like when he filled it out, perhaps what his occupation might have been.
We could find census information from the family.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that would probably be on there from what I'm recalling, you'd have address, next of kin. So we'd be able to figure out if he had if he was
and of course, knowing what company and unit he belonged to, you can find all of his military records.
Sure, absolutely. All right. So here's the bottom portion of this. And again, these things aren't perfect, but we're going to find out that he himself wasn't the person filling this out. So I'm going to read it to you. What was your service overseas? Killed in action, October 20th, 1918, at Grand Prix, France. Body returned in full military funeral and honors given on Wednesday, August 17th, 1920. Should we stop there?
Yeah.
Because the reaction on your face.
So clearly, he's not filling this out.
No, he is not filling this out.
Whether it was his parents, a brother, sister, child. I mean, if he was 29 when he left, very well could have had a 10-year-old son at the time, an 11-year-old son at the time. So he's killed in action shortly before the end of the war. 5 weeks before the war is going to come to an end. While fighting in France, and his body is not returned to the United States for almost 2 full years. Now, speaking from a personal family experience, my great uncle was killed fighting in World War II. He was buried in Belgium. He was killed fighting at the Battle of the Bulge. His body was not returned to the United States for several years until the family actually had enough money to pay to have his body exhumed and then sent back to the United States. Now he's buried in Jersey City.
So I'm glad you bring that up because, there are thousands, if not millions, of American servicemen who are still over in France and areas of Europe because, this definitely also says something. You still have people that are buried over there. Family members did, towards the end of the war, have like an option. Would you like your loved one being brought back? Some opted yes, many opted no. There are still that are unidentified. There's a lot going on there. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that when it comes to making sure your dead get back to the United States so your family can have proper closure, while this may seem insensitive, it wasn't really a priority for the military or the government. Right. It really wasn't. Everything was all hands on deck to get people going towards the rain of fire, fighting and winning. What happened to your body when it wasn't successful wasn't really a priority.
In fact, their priority would be to get you in the ground as fast as they could.
Right.
Because that way your decomposition of your body
Right.
wasn't spreading disease throughout the camp.
And even that hasty, putting people into
Mass
the body, you
graves.
had a lot of misidentifications that went, and that's a whole other story as well. But if you want to see how it's done today, I've only seen it once because it's such a tearjerker. Taking Chances is a good idea of how they do it today with, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There we go. Kevin Bacon's in it, and it shows you that today, you die overseas, you have somebody that's actually, your, they call them in certain branches like a casualty assistance case officer, whatever, depending on the branch, but it'll follow the body from overseas to the funeral home so it's a lot different today. It's handled much, much delicately. So, the next two questions on this questionnaire, and you can see probably if you were going to do a questionnaire like that today, they probably modified this question, date of return and discharge, they left that blank for obvious reasons. Your photograph is asked for. Also copies of letters written home describing experiences. Maybe that was separate. They submitted that separately.
Maybe it was in there.
I'd love to see that. Name any award of honor and tell the story. Was made corporal, that's a rank. Baxter was the second one from the town of Champion to make the supreme sacrifice. The American Legion post in Carthage is named Bassett's-Baxter in remembrance of the first two from this locality to be killed. Name any grandfather who served in any other wars, Spanish-American War, Civil War, 1812. This individual actually said revolutionary. However, when you're looking at the fact that somebody else is filling this out, this person, passed, you're not able to have dialogue with him.
Yeah.
Who knows if Revolutionary War is in fact accurate. But that's what they're saying. The mayors of East and West Carthage proclaimed that all business be suspended during the service, flags at half-mast, etc. He left a widow. Oh, okay, so here we go. So he left a widow. Lena can't make it out because you have a typo there. 2 sisters, Myrtle Baxter, Bigger and Myrtle Baxter Bigger and Mrs. Anthony Lynch. 3 brothers, George, Pearl, and Clarence. Anything else you want to add here?
Well,
here's something else you see when you're looking at American Legion names in local communities. A lot of them were named for people who wound up killed over during World War I. And the person that this is also named for, you see a similarity here because this is Bassett. So right here, this was another document, if you wanted to take a look at this, that again shows the problem here where, let's see, buried on June 17th, 1920, but when we look at another form, he was actually killed, 1918. So, if you wanted to, what's that word when we're like verifying whether or not this is true? Corroborating, so if you wanted to corroborate whether or not this was something that was commonplace, you do see it happening with another individual. Really cool documents. I've never came across something like this. Good jump off point.
The amount of documents that are out there,
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And the thing is that when you're going to study this stuff, you're really being nosy. Historians and curators, they're nosy people. They want to get into your letters. They want to get into your pictures. There's some great jump-off points with this one as well. If you wanted to even delve deeper, just with this information that we gave you, there's a lot that you can discuss.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.